So now that we've had a tour of the MySQL Workbench space, we are going to learn how to write some basic queries, working with the DAMS1 table in the exercises database. This is a small slice of a much larger database that is frequently used by investigative reporters and data journalists from something called the National Inventory of Dams, which has information on the safety status and condition, location of thousands of dams across the country. It's frequently used to write stories about dams that may be not particularly well maintained in areas that, if they failed, could lead to major loss of human life and property damage. In the repo for this lab, there is some links to some of the documentation for a newer version of this data set, and some links to some stories that people have used this data for. If you were actually using this database for a story, first you would want to use the actual full slice of the data set. Two, you would want to read the documentation in some detail to make sure that when you are writing a query on using information from a given field, you have a clear understanding of what that field shows. In this case, the main point of this lesson really is just to teach you about some very basic SQL statements. You will just at the moment have to take me at my word that what I'm telling you is being returned from these queries sort of matches up with the documentation. Okay, so the first SQL statement we're going to use is the use operator. So use exercises and then a semicolon. So just a note about the semicolon, all of our statements are going to be delimited with a semicolon, which tells us this is the end of the SQL statement. This is a very basic one. And all this says is use the exercises database in future queries. When we get to our next kind of statement, which is a select statement, which is a very common term, and we'll go over that in a second, that is used in pretty much all of the queries we're going to be writing. All I have to do is type DAMS1, that's the table we're going to be using. I don't need to explicitly tell it use the exercises table, use the DAMS1 table inside of exercises. So this will just work, and we'll return a record of everything. If I didn't use that use statement, I would need to do this, which says use the DAMS1 table inside of exercises, and when I run it, that will also work. Okay, so that's use. Not everybody uses it. For the purposes of this exercise, I will generally just explicitly say selecting from the exercises table. Okay, so the next type of statement we're going to learn, which we've already just typed a little bit, is the select statement. So again, just to go over this, the select statement, which you use with the word from, allows you to return a set of records from a given table, or in some cases in the future, multiple tables. So I'm just going to write an example, and I'm going to put a comment describing what I'm doing. It says, this query returns the name of each dam listed in the table DAMS1. Okay, and then we are going to select dam name, which is the name of the field. So instead of the star operator, which we'll go over that in a second, which returns all records, I'm just selecting one single field. So select dam name from exercises dot dams1, and then I'm going to delimit it. Note that I can break this apart into multiple lines, and we do this because it's just sort of an easier way of reading it, but this is also basically the same thing. So I'm going to execute it, and now you'll see it returns a list of 1,644 rows, which is the number in our records, and just a list of all the dams. So we can also explicitly select multiple field names at once. So I'm going to put a new comment for this query. So this query returns the name, state, county, and inspection date, the date the dam was inspected, from the table dams1. Okay, so I'm going to select dam name, and then I'm going to put a comma to separate that from the next field or column that I want to return. So state name, county, and INSP underscore date from exercises dot dams1. And then I am going to execute that. And so again, we've got 1,644 rows returned. We've got dam name, state name, the county name, and the inspection date. One note here about precision. It's important to spell things correctly. If I were to, say, accidentally slip a R in there, in country, and then run it, we get an error. And what is our error code here? Error code 1054, unknown column, country in field. And I'm just going to copy the response out and just paste it in here so we can see it in field list. So what does that mean? Well, there is no field named country. There is a field named county. So important to get things correct, and that's what an error message looks like. Okay, and then you've already seen this a couple times, but I just want to go over it again and have you type it. So this query returns all fields for all records in the table dams1. So select, and then the star or asterisk from exercises.dams1. Okay, and then we hit return, and this gives us all of the fields in that database, in that table, sorry. Okay, so right now it's just returning the list of dams as they appear in the original table, but it is also possible to sort the database, the table that is returned, using the order by statement. So this query returns all fields for all records in dams1, sorted by the dam name. Okay, so we are going to select star from exercises.dams1. Okay, and instead of ending the statement here, now we're going to use order by dam name. And I want to sort this from and alphabetically from Z to A. So we're going to use the sort of shorthand for descending. So DESC and then semicolon. And then I'm going to run this. And you'll notice it returns all the records. And I've got the dam name starting from Zuber Lake and Y Yogi Bear's Jellystone Park Lake Dam all the way down to A Action Lake Dam. We can also sort the other way, so sort ascending. So in this case, I'm going to say this query returns all fields for all records in DAMS1 sorted by DAM name from A to Z. And I'm just going to note that this was from Z to A. So select star from exercises.dams1 order by DAM name semicolon, and I actually don't need to put the code for ascending or ASC. By default, it returns when you use order by in ascending order. So now it starts at A, Acton Lake, and goes all the way down to Z. Just so you can see this, if we wanted to make it explicit, I would put ASC, but we don't have to do that, and it returns the same set of records. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to go over the where clause using which allows us to do a lot of filtering.